In his farewell address, President Eisenhower spoke of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. He warned us then about, and I quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, end of quote.
90 days.
Do you think that if Biden had run, in fact, that he would have beaten Trump?
No, I do not think that.
And
if you watched his exit speech, which was beautiful in content, there were moments where I had that same uneasy feeling as a person who actually loves him, and my politics align more with him. I voted for him, and I still watched and kept waiting for him to misspeak because he was jumbling his words. No, I don't think he would have won.
But his being there eliminates the misogyny and the racism that was part of this election.
But I think what you're saying, Alyssa, is important because we talk all the time about Donald Trump and all the way he views being a president is for himself. The people around him, it's about Donald Trump. We always lose the main criticism of him is he lost sight of the fact that his vow was to a constitution. Mission first. It's the country first. And I think what
Who lost sight of that?
Donald Trump.
He never saw that.
He never saw it.
Kamala lost, but I would have won. I think it's disrespectful to somebody who stepped up and ran a very good campaign in a short amount of time.
It's not disrespectful to Kamala. It's about what I just said.
But why?
It would have eliminated those misogynist, sexist pigs out there. And those racist people who would never vote for a black woman.
There is no data to suggest that Biden could have won. No, I saw that debate. He could not have won after June 27th.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about Joe Biden, who is on pace to be the least popular president in recent history as he leaves office, okay? And this is a hell of a turnaround because when Trump left office after January 6th, his approval rating was in the tank, okay? It was probably one of the worst times to be in political commentary, especially if you were a Trump supporter. After January 6th, I will never forget how it felt, okay? It was pretty sad. And Biden and the Democrats had all the momentum. Fast forward 4 years, the reverse has happened, okay? We're in the opposite situation. Trump is as popular as he's ever been, right? He's never been this popular. The mainstream liberal media and the woke revolutionaries, the liberals, are boohoo whining and crying about Trump's popularity. It is now cool to support Trump, right? It is cool to be MAGA. But on the other hand, when it comes to Democrats and the Biden administration, Biden is on pace, again, to be the least popular president that we've had in a long time. And you really can't show your face in public as a Biden supporter without embarrassing yourself, okay? I mean, wearing a Biden-Harris hat or a Harris-Walz hat is like wearing a dunce hat, right? That's exactly what it is, which is why you never see anybody wearing those hats in public, okay? So with that being said, Biden is probably going to go down as one of the worst presidents in the history of this country, worse than presidents like Woodrow Wilson. And it's hilarious to me because it's 100% well-deserved. I personally believe that the current downfall of the Democrat Party is karma due to all the gaslighting, the lies, the supporting of the most extreme, violent movement that we've ever seen in this country, okay, over the last 4 years. The BLM riots, the Antifa riots, the Roe v. Wade riots, the pro-Palestine riots, all of these overwhelmingly left-wing causes. Yeah, this is karma for supporting those movements, right? The downfall of the Democrat Party. It is glorious. I love to see it. In fact, the Cacklehands on The View, they're coping with the reality that Joe Biden is going to retire with such a low approval rating, despite the propaganda from outlets like theirs that basically claim that, no, Biden was an amazing president. He was great. The country is in such great shape.
My understanding is that Nancy Pelosi had a private meeting with Joe Biden and explained to him that she thought that he could not win. That's very different than the public thrashing that we saw from like a George Clooney and others. I thought that was very inappropriate. I did not like the way they treated our sitting president. And I think that history will look very kindly on this president. If you think about Jimmy Carter, his exit poll was at 34%. In 2023, his approval rating was 57%. And so you have Joe Biden leaving office with a 36% approval rating. We are going to think very highly of how he took us out of that pandemic, how he restored the soul of this country, how he made us, again, a respected country with our allies.
The economy
the economy is at an all-time high.
And Donald Trump is about to be president again.
And the infrastructure bill and how he tried his best to work across the aisle. And so, you know, I understand that Jill is upset.
What you were saying.
Boy, I gotta tell you guys, the delusion is off the charts, okay? Sunny Holston is a character. She really is. She may be the most out-of-touch political commentator on television, okay? And you know why, right? She's out of touch because she's rich, okay? This woman lives in a 10-bedroom, 10-bath estate in New York, okay? She lives in a mansion. So I'm honestly not surprised that somebody like her, who clearly is just living a different life than most people, okay? I totally understand why she thinks the economy is great, okay? Rich people like her, yeah, Biden's economy has been amazing for the rich, but for the poor, not so much, right? For the middle class, not so much. People who don't own these assets that have been appreciating in value under the Biden administration due to inflation, okay? So again, when rich people come out here and talk about how great the economy is, just keep in mind, yeah, when you print trillions of dollars and you inflate the prices of assets, yeah. The economy is going to be doing great for the rich, but not so much for people who are living off of a fixed income, right? The poor, the people at the bottom. Again, it's just amazing how out of touch these cackling hens are. But regardless, history is not going to remember Joe Biden as some revolutionary, amazing president, okay, who took down Orange Man. No, that's not how they're going to remember him. They're going to remember Joe Biden as the president that ushered in open borders, that had the worst inflation crisis in this country since the 70s and 80s. He has taken this country backwards when it comes to progressive social policies. Okay, he's allowed wokeness to take over as an ideology that has caused the most political violence that we've ever seen in this country. It's the most divisive country ever right now under Joe Biden. Okay, there's not much good we can say about the Biden administration right now. Not much good at all. So with that being said, there should be no surprise that the approval ratings are reflecting the real reality, which is that Biden is a terrible president, and even CNN is roasting him for this disaster that his administration was.
As President Biden prepares to exit the White House, President-elect Trump is making his way to Washington to take the oath of office amid a brutal cold spell due to hit the nation's capital on Monday. While Biden's approval ratings exiting office are frosty, Trump appears to be enjoying a bit of a honeymoon period. Joining us now to run the numbers on this, CNN senior data reporter Harry Inton. Hello, Harry.
Hello.
This is a pretty typical pattern, but these numbers for Biden seem especially low.
Yeah, they're historically, though. They're, I dare say, historically awful. What am I talking about here? Well, job approval at the end of the first term. I'm just looking amongst those who lost or didn't run for re-election. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to see which is the lowest number on your screen right now. And an average of polls, my average, Joe Biden's at 38%. He's actually lower than Donald Trump was at the end of his first term. Remember, at the end of his first term, everyone was saying Donald Trump's political career is over. Joe Biden's approval ratings even lower than Trump's was by just a point. He's lower than Jimmy Carter, who was at 44% by the end of his presidency. Not even close to George H.W. Bush, who was at 56%, saw a nice rebound. But the bottom line is this. Joe Biden came in to end the Donald Trump reign in this country, right? End Donald Trump's political career. And all that's ended up happening is Joe Biden has managed to end up at a lower approval rating at the end of his first term than any president on record, Jessica.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think Biden's real approval rating is lower than that. Let's be honest. This is an approval rating propped up by propaganda, right, from the media, okay? If the media wasn't an arm of the Democrat Party, his approval rating would be in the single digits. It would be in the single digits. But it's just funny to think about because, again, I think a lot of this is karma. The fact is that I think that Democrats, due to their weaponization of the pandemic, along with some possible other funny business as well, too, that's the only reason that Trump lost. Let's be real. That's the only reason that Trump lost, okay? The funny business and the pandemic. If the pandemic had not happened, then Trump would have won. He would have got reelected. And I think that we would have had 4 years of a great economy and a much more secure border. And we would not be dealing with all this woke lunacy that we've dealt with for the past 4 years. But since Biden took office, instead, we had a pandemic. And I think the spending as a result of that pandemic that happened at the end of the Trump administration, but especially that happened during Biden's administration, that is the cause of the inflation. And ultimately, that is what kneecapped Biden. That along with the open border and all the other woke nonsense that got out of control. But that's the main thing. So I think the irony here is that it may have been a good thing that Trump didn't win in 2020 and that Democrats ended up winning, because the next 4 years were probably going to be tough to navigate due to the fact that there would have been inflation as a result of the pandemic, the spending, the lockdowns, that I don't think would have lasted as long. I don't think would have been as bad under Trump. But I do like this second Trump term. I'm much more optimistic about this second Trump term than I would have been about a second Trump term back in 2020. Because I think Trump's team this time around is head and shoulders better than his last team, right? So he's upgraded. And although Biden is not leaving him a great situation, I think that Trump can definitely get this country back on track, right? He's not dealing with a pandemic, okay? He's not dealing with a pandemic. So, you know, I think that a lot of what's happening to Democrats right now, it really is karma. And it's just funny to think about. But Biden's approval rating certainly is worse than this. Okay, this is not a real approval rating. This is just what they have on paper. But this is propped up by propaganda.
And how are people reflecting on his entire presidency at this moment?
Yeah, so if you think this approval rating number is bad, take a look at this particular number. All right, a good or great president at the end of their terms. Well, Barack Obama, 52% of Americans thought he was a good or great president at the end of his presidency, 2017. Donald Trump, very much behind Barack Obama at 36%. But look at how low Joe Biden is. My goodness gracious, you can't really get lower than 25% in our polarized era, because the bottom line is there's going to be a bunch of Democrats who would say that Biden was a good or great president no matter what he did. But yet it's only a quarter of the country who believes that Joe Biden was a good or great president. It is the lowest number since AP Nork started tracking this back at the end of Barack Obama's second term. Bottom line is Joe Biden goes out a very unpopular man at the end of a 50-plus year political career.
It is. It's so interesting, and there's so many questions too about, like, are we so more divided now than we were back in 2017? Is it Joe Biden? There's a lot there to chew on.
Well, it's certainly Joe Biden. Come on now, 100%. They told us that Trump was the source of the divisiveness in 2020. Biden gets into office and we're more divided than ever. How does that work? And the division started under Barack Obama. So to me, I think that the division is coming from the Democrats. That's where the division is coming from. Every time they're in office, the division just gets worse. The division that is caused by Trump, right? That division is a result of the liberal media and the lies. Okay? That's what that's a result of. It's not because Trump is necessarily divisive. It's that Democrats and liberal media make him more divisive than he actually is. But there's no doubt in my mind that the primary source of the hate and division in this country certainly comes from the left. A vast majority of it.
I do want you to talk us through Trump's popularity at this point.
Yeah, so if Joe Biden's numbers are at his lowest point, right, Donald Trump's are right near his top point. We have a little thing up here. I'm so tall, I was managed to able to actually bump it. Look at this. Trump's record favorable rating. You know, you go back 4 years ago, he was at 38%. Look at where he is today, 47%. That is the highest favorable rating Donald Trump has ever registered in an average of polls. So what we're dealing with is something very interesting, whereby, as I was saying, Joe Biden's at his worst point. Donald Trump is actually at his best point, being with this such a high favorable rating. One other little last thing I will point out, because I want to get to the forecast a little bit, is just take a look at this. Will Trump be a good president? In January of 2017, you saw 48% for Donald Trump. Look at where we are today. A majority expect that Donald Trump will be a good president. So expectations for him are quite high. We'll see if he's able to meet those expectations, Jessica.
Yeah, and you mentioned the weather. How cold will it be historically?
Brr, brr. I mean, my goodness gracious. I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking Monday's forecast is in the low 20s, a low 10s wind chill. That would make it the potentially second coldest inauguration on record. Remember, Ronald Reagan was at 7 in 1985. We're looking right around where JFK was in 1961. And look, this is even going to be colder than Obama's at 28.
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. I personally believe that Joe Biden is the worst president of the 21st century. I believe that once the 21st century is over, he will go down as the worst president. At least I hope that's the case. I hope we don't have a president worse than Joe Biden. I think he's definitely a top 3 worst president in U.S. history. And ultimately, he will be forgotten, okay? Outside of how bad he was, right? And sometimes I feel bad for old Joe. But then again, I really don't. He called Trump supporters garbage. Even though the Democrats screwed him over, right? They threw him under the bus. They threw him away like a used condom when he was no longer useful for their party. Even though they treated Joe wrong, hey, I think he deserves it. To be honest with you, I think he deserves it. So I'm not even one of these people that feel bad about Joe, even though I know he got screwed over. Just because he called Trump supporters garbage, right? If he would not have called us garbage at the end, I may have felt a little bad for Joe, okay? But, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.